Wow. So, welcome to Dark Arts Podcast. Look, let me tell you this now. Why would a man like Skip Bayless, somebody who has power, somebody who has a show, somebody who's revered, somebody who's respected, somebody who's got a family, somebody who, if he needed to, if he wanted to really get a courtesan, or let's just say an escort, if you want to call it that, a more prettier word to say it as, he didn't have to pay 1.5 million. So it seems implausible for a lot of men that Skip Bayless would pay 1.5 million to a woman who was freeing it up, quote unquote, to say with other men like Emmanuel Ocho and also Mr. Dixon, who owns Fox Sports. Why would this man pay 1.5 million? I think it's very simple. Men of power, renownedness, and who have stature tend to be very rigid and very restricted and very disciplined. And so the aspect of being able to be free from that confinement for some time through sexual escapades is something that attracts men. So we're going to talk a little bit about the siren again. I did it in my first video because that's what I believe that Joy Taylor was. Her art of seduction is that she's a siren. She conducts herself in a sexual manner, the use of having low cut tops and showing her breast as a way of attracting these men. You see, the siren is very clever. She understands the repression of a man, understands that the man in this today's society yearns for freedom. And that freedom comes through the sexual escapades that she can, quote unquote, provide to that man. And that is what actually quintessentially causes a man to pay 1.5 million. But if you don't believe me, Robert Greene speaks eloquently about this in his book. And I'm going to play a little bit of that clip in the next few minutes. But before we go there, make sure you guys are liking, you're sharing, you are subscribing to the channel, because this is the kind of stuff we're breaking down. We're talking about the game and the manipulation that exists in the world of relationships and dating. We're here to expose the game. Let's break down this particular aspect and let's go down the rabbit hole.
You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Okay, so if you haven't already seen the document, there's a document which is by Miss Faraji. Her lawsuit, she actually speaks about this, all right? So in her lawsuit, she says here, over the years, Mr. Bayless continued to make advances on Miss Faraji, e.g. lingering hugs, kisses on the cheek, and inappropriate comments that he could change her life if she acquiesced having sex. I want to stop here first and foremost. In fact, I'll read on and we'll come back there. Miss Faraji would always make excuses regarding her son, politely change the subject, or make a joke, anything to keep Mr. Bayless appeased and her job safe. In 2021, Miss Faraji developed issues with her left ovary and was advised it could be cancer. With a fourth biopsy scheduled, she explained her situation to Mr. Bayless, hoping that he would take pity on her and cease his advances. Instead, Mr. Bayless told her that he wanted to be with her. Mr. Faraji panicked and began rambling that there were cameras everywhere and she has a child and that she does not want him. Mr. Bayless then grabbed her hands, began kissing them, and offered her 1.5 million to have sex. Mr. Faraji made an excuse to leave. Now the question is, again, we ask the question, why would a man like Skip Bayless, who could have access to other women, who could sleep with women because he's got money and some status and some wealth, why would he pay 1.5 million to this woman here? Well, I think the reality of the situation is that it's easy to see why. And I realized I incorrectly quoted, it wasn't Joy Taylor, but it was Miss Faraji, who was the one that was a target of her 1.5 million. Why would he want to pay that? Well, simply put, one, it's the aspect of the secret, which makes it very exciting. The fact that somebody is in your workplace, it's close to you in proximity. You get to have access to this woman whenever you wanted. Number two, it is the fact that you can't have it. It's the forbidden fruit. It makes you feel like if you can win it, which is number three, you could conquer and accrue something that was previously said you could not have. It yields to the basic nature of the man, the beast of that man who wants to prove that he is worthy of attaining. In fact, like I said, don't have to believe me. Let's go to Robert Greene and break down what he says about the subject and come back to the lawsuit.
Intrigue. In the sexual realm, courtesans and mistresses were practically a social institution and offered him the variety and the chase that he craved. Without any outlets, his drives turn inward and gnaw at him, becoming all the more volatile for being repressed. Sometimes a powerful man will do the most irrational things, have an affair when it is least called for, just for the thrill, the danger of it all. The irrational can prove immensely seductive, and even more so for men who must always seem so reasonable.
Now, what was said here is that the irrationality of wanting to even pay the 1.5 million, because many people are going, it's crazy. Why would a man pay 1.5 million? The irrationality of a man paying 1.5 million is simply in the aspect of the thrill. And I can tell you straight up, I've been captivated by women simply by the thrill. It's called the sport. And when you get into that mindset, then things that seemingly you would think to yourself you shouldn't do or want to do, the chase of a particular woman that you probably weren't even interested in, suddenly now becomes interesting because it's a chase, it's a sport. If I capture it, what does it say about me? It is the basic repressed aggression of a man within himself to conquer and to capture. And that nature can be accessed, especially by someone who's a siren. Now, in this instance, we're not talking about Joy Taylor, who we spoke about in the first video. We're talking about Miss Faraji, who is a single mother who is trying to provide for her family and doesn't want to acquiesce. And he then promotes to her and says, "I can make you what you want, what you're wanting to be. I have the power." And so the thrill and excitement is the ability to change somebody's life. I can do this to you, right? The power that comes from knowing that you have the ability to give or take away life. Because that's, in a sense, what it gets down to, right? To play God. It's a bit more.
If it is seductive power you are after, the siren is the most potent of all. She operates on a man's most basic emotions, and if she plays her role properly, she can transform a normally strong and responsible male into a childish slave.
Now, of course, he's talking about the siren, but I wanted to use it because I believe that a lot of men manipulate themselves into desiring something that never was on the table to be desired. This lady here is a single mother working at work. She isn't trying to get close to you. She isn't wanting to be with you. She's not even tempting you, but you are tempted because you want it. And temptation comes from a space of within. What is within? It is the ability to accrue power over someone, to the ability to take something from someone, the ability to persuade someone to do what you want them to do, or persuade someone to do something that they said they would never do, and to have the ability to say, "I made you do it." It's very irrational. So that 1.5 million is small. Now, it seems very huge at the time because you're like, that's a lot of money, but it's not a lot of money to the person who wants a thrill and who wants excitement. See, we pay for the very things that we put value on. And the value here is for Skip Bayless potentially is the thrill. It's the chase. It is not necessarily this woman. The woman herself isn't the value. The value is that she doesn't want it. The value is that she never wanted him. The value is that he believes he can have whatever he wants. Again, allegedly. The value is that she's saying no, and she's declining his advances and his ability to conquer the city. And you've heard men who get angry when they can't conquer something or they can't have something, and then they decide to take. Which is why I said in my previous video that women tend to operate in a passive-aggressive manner, because when men decide they want to take, they operate in a very aggressive manner. He started off by saying, lingering hugs and kisses, but, very soon he will take physically as well, it seems. Okay. All right. So again, just reading this last part, approximately 1 week later, Mr. Bayless made another advance at Miss Faraji. Miss Faraji responded, "Skip, stop. You have a wife." Mr. Bayless responded, "Aren't you Muslim? Doesn't your dad have 3 to 4 wives?" Miss Faraji responded that her father was dead. And when Mr. Bayless looked back, taken aback, she made an excuse to leave. Okay. All right. And so later on, she's actually threatened because she doesn't want to see Mr. Bayless. That's another video for another day. But I wanted to prove that again once more, that these situations where you see men doing these kind of stuff, it's irrational, but it's rational in the sense of understanding the logic. The thrill of the chase and the hunt is what the 1.5 million is actually accruing for. Well, listen, my time is up. This is Dark Arts Podcast. Like I said, make sure you like, share, subscribe, click on that bell button for notification of the uploads. We've hopefully answered your question why Skip Bayless would pay 1.5 million for sex with Miss Faraji, and I hope that that answers it for you as well. But you gotta go.